When I first started doing Fru, I was doing it because I wanted to break from Savage and wanted to get a taste of Ultimate rating. So, I went and cleared M4S and got into my first Fru instance after a bit of studying and found dying to P1 to be a lot more refreshing than dying to ads and M6S over and over again. A couple of weeks go by, not really trying that hard to go for Fru. I'm still trying to clear M6S mostly when I stumble across someone and told him I liked his adventurer plate. That was quite possibly the most important interaction that I could have had, and fast forward a couple of weeks on a clear T with a group that he invited me to join. With the clear of my first ultimate under my belt, I set my sights on something harder, much, much harder. Dragon Song's Reprise Ultimate. I get into my first instance and pretty quickly get to P2, and struggle at strength for a bit naturally. I'd come back to DSR later, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Why does all of this matter in the context of Fru? Well, it paints the picture that Fru was never meant to happen for me. When I started this journey, it was all some grand mistake that I made and never knew the full consequences of until much later on. On a fateful day, I joined one of my friends for Diamond Dust prog, and once we got past it into like rampant in instance, I realized something. I was halfway through the fight phase-wise and should start going for Fru. So I dropped everything going on with DSR, stopped joining and hosting my usual tea parties, and started doing Fru instead, and I never realized just how things would play out. When I was first progging through, I was doing it on Black Mage, but fell in love with Gunbreaker, so I started tanking, accidentally passed my prog point on Caster, and decided that it was time to switch to off-tank, since that's what I wanted to do. I'll try this for a bit before realizing that Gunbreaker wasn't really an off-tank. Most of the tank comps made Gunbreaker the main tank, so I started working on leveling Dark Knight. In the meantime, though, I would do P2 light rampant prog parties on Gunbreaker for a bit on off-tank until I finally got Dark Knight to 100, and that's when I started getting serious about prog. I started joining P3 parties hoping to see something, anything, but not much success. I'd see Ultimate Relativity occasionally, but it would never be clean, always something messing up. I wouldn't even get consistent APOC parties until I started doing P4 prog parties. Getting past P3 and progging through it were both very difficult because all I could do was struggle with other people that weren't consistent on things before that point. After reaching Darklit, I didn't realize it yet, but things were about to get incredibly difficult. See, the thing that makes Ultimates difficult isn't just mechanic difficulty, it's not just fight length, it's not just consistency or choke checks, or having to memorize every case. It's having everyone else in your party do the mechanics correctly, as well as you doing the mechanic correctly. I didn't know this yet, I felt incredibly stuck, I wouldn't see P4 that often, so I started prog-lying a bit and started joining CT parties. This was the biggest wall by far. At least during my clear parties I can practice CT cases that I'm not entirely familiar with, but I wouldn't even see CT that often in these parties, and I ended up getting incredibly frustrated because I felt stuck, like I couldn't move forward. So, I made the biggest mistake ever. I let my ego get to me and I started putting up clear for one parties for myself. I was not clear ready. My simming on P5 was inconsistent. I was still getting nervous even seeing CT, and I would make constant mistakes in Darklit. But I thought because I was mostly consistent that I was worthy, and this is the biggest cause for all of my frustrations. The mentality of I'm consistent, why isn't everyone else? I'll take my frustrations to one of my friends, Violet Stardust. I told it about how I felt like I was stuck and then that it feels like I'm being held back, but it told me something that would change my perspective on everything forever. Even if every player is 100% consistent on every mech up to P4, but 90% consistent on crystallized time, that means you've got a 7.2% chance to succeed. This mentality, this realization given to me on a silver platter, the final key that I needed to realize that I wasn't ready for clearing, I wasn't ready for CT, hell, I wasn't even ready for Darklit. Every pull up to CT were cases that I was familiar with and were easy for me. I wouldn't have to do anything, I was already comfortable, but what I needed was practicing game with the things that I struggled with. Practicing game that I can't get if I try to just clear. Practicing game that would disrespect others' time if I kept doing what I was doing. So I went back. I started hosting P5 fresh parties. I would sit there in PF for hours upon hours just trying to get that one pull. I started writing down every day what went wrong that day, what went right that day, and how I could fix the things that went wrong. Slowly, I started improving, until finally.
You endure. Another approach then. I am yours and you are mine. you please? What is this? Reen, are you there? Gaia? No one will erase our promise. No one.
I was here. Finally. My mistakes mostly cleaned up. My execution fixed. I was finally ready to clear. I started again with the clear for one parties. This time I was ready. I was practiced. I knew that if I had just the right instance, things would work out. I would clear, and I'd sit on the other end of this happy that this journey was so memorable for me, that I am here telling you about this story. But of course, things can't be that easy. These parties were a struggle to say the least. A lot of the time we wouldn't even see P5. Sometimes I would see P5 multiple times, but something would always just go wrong. Main tank would mess up CT, I would mess up CT, and midi would get messed up somehow. It just felt like that no matter what, no matter how many times I got to P5, I just couldn't clear it. I'd struggle over and over again, instance after instance, day by day, constantly fighting to continue. Upset about the things that didn't happen, upset about my instances never going good, upset about the fact that I'm still just as stuck as I was back in those P3 parties. Seeing progress was hard and took a lot of mental effort. Slowly, things would start progressing to become better. I knew that I was no longer the person holding everything back most of the time. I just needed that one pull that would end it all, and, well...
Yeah.
Well, yeah. As soon as buffs are up, she should do it.
Yep. Nice. Good job. Told you it was today.
Yes, dude! Finally! Let's
Hell yeah.
fucking go!
Kinda gaming.
Finally!
Yeah. GG.
I want to give a very special thanks to the following people for supporting me along this journey. Violet Stardust, Flip the Femby, Parmesan, Paragon Greatheart, Golda Take, Chicharon, Paige Stardust, Elysia Noct, Stella Yarnus, Carrot Cake, Blue Eclipse, Cora Estraios, Kaoru Hayashi, Faye Nightwolf, Cuddle Goblin, Mina Hagane, Baldwin Halixetson, Ignace Sable, Soul Sad Guy, Awakened Moment, Jai Kenny, Cloud Aqua, and finally, Humps the Lad for setting everything in motion. Without your help, I wouldn't have made it here and I wouldn't have kept pushing even though times were tough. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you so much for helping me clear. Oh, and of course, how could I almost forget? One final thank you to the party I cleared in. Maki Sakurada, Chicharon, Danny Nini, Mao Mizuno, Logan Cooper, Houndar Madeira, Ladonia Otoel. I'm gonna go off script here for a second. I went into this thinking that everything would be relatively easy. I wasn't expecting for the challenge that I was given. I wasn't expecting to struggle as much as I did. I honestly thought Fru was easy for a bit, but this fight really pushed me to my limits. I am very glad to be standing on the other end of this, feeling like a much stronger person mentally for it. That is all. Until next time.